do you have anything to say about the public-private type of arrangement?
We're willing to get money from wherever we can. And we've cobbled together money from so many different sources. It's always been a scramble and a struggle. We've done 5 what we call ZAP projects so far, and everyone was funded differently from every other. And sometimes there's been years in between where we just couldn't get the money together, so you have to be patient. The one big project that we've done is Flamingo Arroyo Trail. Somebody came to my office one day and said, he just sat down, he's another county employee, and I had kind of a big speech I gave about public art, and I started explaining it to him because he said he really wasn't aware of the public art movement at all. And after we were done talking, he got up and left, and then typical unsafe maneuver, he called me from his cell phone while he was driving away, and said, you know, we're going to be building a trail down Flamingo Wash, the Flamingo Arroyo Trail. I guess Flamingo Wash Trail doesn't sound glorious enough, but he said, would that be a good place for public art? And I said, you bet. So we, Flamingo Arroyo Trail is a trail that winds for 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 miles, depending on what day you ask. Nobody seems to be able to measure it accurately, but it was going to be a hiking, biking trail through the urban part of the valley. And it was funded by SNPLMA, as we call it, the Southern Nevada Public Lands, I don't remember the rest of the initials to fill out, the Public Lands Act. And they had quite a large grant to build the trail. But we talked to my boss at the time, and she wrote a supplementary grant that would allow us, for $2.5 million, that would allow us to put design amenities along the trail. We carefully avoided use of the word art. And so we sat down and tried to figure out how we were going to do this. And the first question was whether there were any artists in Las Vegas or Southern Nevada that we could hire to work on this project. And the quick answer was no. There were no artists that had ever worked on a project like this that would involve meeting construction schedules, working with contractors, working with all kinds of complicated contracts, and building the kind of things that we wanted to build, including 3 pedestrian bridges. So we ended up inviting a dozen artists from across the Southwest and all the way up to Seattle to come and discuss the project. And we ended up hiring 3. One was Buster Simpson from Seattle, one was Kevin Barry from Phoenix, and the other was Barbara Gudis from down in southern Arizona. Suddenly the name of the city isn't coming to me, but you all know it. Barbara and Buster had done work all over the country. Kevin had done work in the Phoenix area only. He was much younger than the other 2. None of them had ever met each other. But everybody advised us, all the other artists kept asking us, you've got this long, long trail, and you're going to hire one artist to do the whole thing. They advised us that that was a bad idea, so we took these 3 artists who were the finalists and asked if they'd like to work together. And they were more candid years later when I asked them how they felt about it. They said, well, you know, each of us wanted to work. And if you were going to make us work together, then we agreed. But they said they didn't know each other, and they had no idea whether this was going to work out. It worked out extremely well. And my idea was that they would not build any art. There would not be any freestanding sculptures, there wouldn't be any murals, there wouldn't be any paintings. We were hiring them to build the regular furniture of the trail, which meant benches, shade shelters, 3 pedestrian bridges, signage, directional signage, and we're going to have 4 trailheads, and we wanted them to design the layout of the trailheads, and they ultimately hired a landscape architect whom they worked with to select plants and so forth. So this was the first big project that the county ever did along these lines, and we went to our public works department and talked to the engineers there and said, okay, you're going to be working on this project with these 3 artists. And they said, no, we're not. And they were very serious, but we were too. And we had to negotiate and negotiate and negotiate and negotiate. From the time we decided to do the project till the time it was finished, it took 7 years. And in the meantime, the recession hit, and although the artists designed 3 pedestrian bridges and worked with engineers that we hired and that we paid much more than we paid the artists to make sure all the engineering was right on these bridges, the 3 bridges in the wake of the recession were never built. Everything else was, all the furniture in the trail was basically weathering steel, as you have on part of this building. It's a beautiful building, by the way. We've had no objections to it whatsoever. We went around, the head of our Parks and Recreation Department, Jane Pike, and I went around and met with each of the county commissioners as we were approaching voting on this public art plan that we ultimately did get passed unanimously. One commissioner really fiercely criticized the art on the Zap boxes that we had been doing for years, which I found interesting since that was the first person I've ever heard criticize those boxes. And you know, they were cheap. We've been doing a lot of them because they're cheap and easy to do. And we didn't have any money to work with. But I told them that if the art fund passed, this is not the sort of thing we'd be thinking about. We would be thinking about doing large projects. There's a photo over in the back of the room of a pedestrian bridge recently built by the city of Las Vegas with an artist. And there's all kinds of art designs 3-dimensionally attached to the outside of the bridge. And I said, that's more the kind of thing we're thinking about doing. And the commissioner said, well, now that I like. I mean, he's talking about paying, he doesn't like paying an artist $2,250 to paint utility boxes, but he's willing to pay an artist hundreds of thousands of dollars to design a bridge. But the reason is that he could defend the bridge to the voters. He could defend having a way to get pedestrians across the street. And if you're going to have a way to get pedestrians across the street, you're going to want it to look good. And on that basis, he could defend it as a piece of art. So I think that's an important lesson.
Mark, I'm sure you've heard some of the same arguments here in the city. You have to defend what you're doing, and you have your detractors on either side no matter what. What about trying to do any art projects that add to the cost of public construction?
Tough question, harder to answer. At this point, the way funds are, it's nearly impossible. As we struggle, as all cities are struggling right now to just fund the basics, police, fire, everything else that we have to fund, and it's not getting any cheaper or easier. And that's unfortunate, and I think that's where we need to start looking a lot more into public-private partnerships. We have to start finding other ways of funding certain things. Cities can no longer continue to carry large burdens when it comes to the arts. They just can't. I wish that was not true, but that is the reality that we all face. I don't speak for the council. They will certainly speak for themselves. I know we have some supporters of the arts on council. I know that for a fact. But again, we still struggle with do we have enough police officers and firefighters and public safety and roads and all the less than artistic things that we have to face on a daily basis. I do know at present the city has a fund available through the directional signs. I don't know if that's something that you would know about, but currently there's about $12,000 in this. And that's the funding that was used, I believe, to paint a few of the utility boxes as well as the mural, the 25-year mural. And that is available.
And that's something good to know.
To do certain things, and there really isn't, the structure or how it goes out is development services and the city manager make those decisions. So if we're looking to do more utility boxes and things of that nature, I think we have the funding to do that. Again, those are from the directional signs that we have sitting. $5, I believe it's $5 a panel per month, goes into an art fund. And that is available. We make about $1,000 every 3 months off of that. It goes into this particular fund. So that is available. A lot of other funding probably just don't have the source right now. We're going through the budget process right now, and I can tell you from my standpoint, it's not pretty. And it never is, and hopefully in the next few years we'll be able to get some improvements in the funding area. But right now, I think the most important thing right now is to work with the different businesses, work with everybody, and try to pool our resources to do the best that we can, and come up with some ideas to help move this along together, as opposed to just one entity or the other doing it.